Good morning, ma'am. My name is Coffee Claire Rosal Castillon from BS Criminology Section A, and this is my research video presentation. History of the Rights of the Child from Declaration to Convention. Background of the study. Life is valuable and should be cherished. Not only does a child have the right to live, but also to rise and develop. They are a nation's treasure and its dream for the future, and as such, they must be prioritized not only by our country, but also for the sake of the world's future, giving them the chance to survive, to have a home, and to have the luxury of having rights to become someone. One of the main reasons for the implementation of these child rights is education. Their right to be educated and competent so that they can have hopes and goals, as well as to be an investor in their country's economic growth. In the middle of the 19th century, the idea appears in France to give children special protection, enabling the progressive development of minors' rights. Since 1841, law starts to protect children in their workplace. French law include the right for the children to be educated. At the beginning of the 20th century, children's protection starts to be put in place, including protection in the medical, social, and judicial fields. This type of protection starts first in France and spreads across Europe afterwards. The League of Nations adopts the Declaration of the Rights of the Child on September 16, 1924, which is the first international treaty concerning children's rights. In 5 chapters, it gives specific rights to the children and obligations to the adults. The importance of the study. Then, the importance of this study aims to know the rights of the child from declaration to convention as where country they belong, and to learn about the rights and advantages of being a child citizen, particularly pursuing freedom and free education as part of the nation. For this study, it has three importance for child rights. The first, important to have legal obligations and rights whether he or she is born and raised in the region. Second, important to have rights growing up in that country. Third, important to make a child indigent. And why does it need to know this importance? It must need to know for us to be aware that the child also have rights and freedom, and their rights is fully protected by our governments. And so we don't have the right to slave them because they might battle us from relying to the constitutional rights. Conclusion and recommendation. With the information obtained from reputable sources, the researcher concludes that the country must develop the existing laws to ensure more protection for the child, especially the conventional children's rights. And of course, children should be protected from any activity that takes advantage of them or could harm their welfare and development. And for the recommendation, the researcher recommends this report to be published to aware those countries who haven't seen the needs of the child, especially rights, for them to realize that a child has also unique ability that can make the country a successful one, because they are not just a child, they can also give greatest contribution to the country, which having dreams and aspirations as well as a contributor in their country economic development. Corruption and the political dynasty in the Philippines. Background of the study. Corruption is a disease, a cancer that eats into the cultural, political, and economic fabric of society and destroys the functioning of vital organs. In the words of Transparency International, corruption is one of the greatest challenges of the contemporary world. It undermines the good government, fundamentally distorts public policy, leads to the mislocation of resources, harms the private sector and private sector development, and particularly hurts the poor. According to a newspaper article from Daily Inquirer of last year, May 2020, high corruption levels severely restrict the efficiency of businesses operating in the Philippines. Extensive bribery within the public administration and vague and complex law makes foreign companies vulnerable to extortion and manipulation by public officials. Favoritism and undue influence are widespread in the courts, leading to time-consuming and unfair dispute resolution and to an uncertain business environment. The importance of the study. The importance of this study aims to know the corruption and the political dynasty in the Philippines. And also, this study aims to know if the independent variables have anything to do with corruption and political dynasty. Mainly, it's sought to know if corruption and political dynasty is being practiced here in Philippines, knowing that we are one of the richest countries in Southeast Asia. For this study, it has three importance for the corruption and political dynasty here in Philippines. First, important to know the connection between the years of service of the politician to corruption. Second, important to know the connection between their position in the government to corruption. Third, important to know the connection between their monthly salary to corruption. And fourth, important to know how political dynasty leads to corruption. And why does it need to know this importance? It must need to know for us to be aware why the leaders needs to corrupt if their salary is suitable for their daily needs as consumer. Why the leader needs to corrupt if they are true to his stand, and why the leaders need to corrupt if they want for his country is to make it a successful one. So don't corrupt if you want for his country to make it a successful one. Conclusion and recommendation. With the data obtained from reputable sources, the researcher concludes that to end this kind of problem that they see in the country, they just need to make a law for corruption and to political dynasty. The law that should be applied to all and to help people understand better what lies behind this issue. The Filipinos should be reminded that they have the power to choose through their votes to stop the common problem in the country. If they see that their officials are corrupt, so they must no longer to re-elect it, but to elect what's the best for a country that can give them a better living. And for the recommendation, the researcher recommend this report to be published to aware those public officials who continuously corrupt the money that is only for their countrymen, for them to realize that their wrongdoings can make the country fail to develop what's best for it. Convention on the Rights of the Child in the Philippines. Background of the study, recognizing that a child, for the full and harmonious development of his or her personality, should grow up in the family environment, in an atmosphere of happiness, love, and understanding, considering that a child should be fully prepared to live an individual life in society, and brought up in the spirit of the ideals proclaimed in the Charter of the United Nations, and in particular in the spirit of peace, dignity, tolerance, freedom, equality, and solidarity. According to the UNICEF, in 1989, something incredible happened against the backdrop of a changing world's order. World leaders came together and made a historic commitment to the world's children. They made a promise to every child to protect and fulfill their rights by adopting an international legal framework. Therefore, given circumstances, it rightfully implemented to secure one's future, not just for their one's sake but its country. A child has a brighter future knowing that if that child is surrounded with an environment that pushes them to excel and become successful in life, making not just their family proud but as well as their country. The importance of the study. The importance of this study aims to know the legal rights of the child born and raised here in the Philippines. Mainly, it sought to know the privileges and benefits being a child Filipino citizen. For this study, it has three important for child rights here in Philippines. First one is children are individuals. Children are neither the possession of parents nor the state, nor are they mere successful in the making, they have equal status as member of the human family. Second, children starts life as totally dependent beings. Children must rely on adults for the nurture and guidance they need to grow towards independence. Such nurture is ideally found from adults in children's families. But when primary adult caregivers cannot meet children's needs, it is up to the state as the primary duty bearer to find an alternative in the best interest of the child. And most of all, it has to be set out the rights that must be realized for children to develop their full potential if the conventional rights of the child in the Philippines are fully protected by officials or government. The convention recognizes the fundamental human dignity of all children and the urgency of ensuring their well-being and development. Conclusion and recommendation. With the information gathered from prestigious sources, the researcher concludes that the Philippine government has shown a great commitment to improve the welfare of children. Despite advancement, many children continue to suffer obstacles to fully realizing their rights, which has a negative impact on their capacity to live, grow, and flourish. Because of the help and support of our beloved officials here in Philippines, several children have better living since they know that their conventional rights is bearable and expressed. And for the recommendation, the researcher recommends this report to be published to our Philippines country because the right doing of the government in the Philippines for their countrymen is really heartwarming because they seek the needs of the children and they don't even feel doubt by giving all the help and support to the children in the Philippines.